Ready to go? You feel good?
Yeah.
It's just heaps of questions about yourself to begin with.
That's okay. That's fine.
All right.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Are you ready? 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 Are you ready, listeners? It's the Chip Lunch Podcast, and I'm very excited to be back here at the, what do we call it? Our Third Space Studio at Sorrel Kirrawee. I am joined by Brayden this week.
Hello.
How are you? My name's Joel, by the way. How are you?
Lovely to meet you, Joel.
Lovely to meet you. Nice to meet you too. And I've got the most lovely thing about this podcast is that we are going to have Kim joining us today.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Kim.
Nice to see you guys.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Stoked to be here.
You've
It's great.
your husband's taken your child away.
Yeah.
So you're free to
Amazing. I'm free as a bird. I'm ready
get ready
to
for a 3-hour podcast.
Yes. I've got time. It's fine.
That's right. And then baking. Was it baking after that?
Yeah,
So you're
youth,
playing?
we're baking cookies.
Oh, excellent.
It'll be great.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Even though
Even
I
though
won't be at youth.
I won't be going.
that would be a bit weird. I'm not a youth leader. Not anymore. Anyway, Kim, it's really cool to have you, but we're going to ask you the same
Most
question.
important
The
question.
most important question of the
Question
podcast.
that we ask here at Soul Revival.
Oh, yeah. Ready? Let's do it together. Ready?
Okay.
3, 2, 1. How do you take your chips?
I have a controversial opinion.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
I love
yes.
this. Bring it. Give it
Spicy.
to me.
So I actually don't really like hot chips.
Woo!
Oh,
Not that
jeez.
much. Like, not to the point where I would order them for myself. If they came with a meal,
Wow.
Yep.
I'd maybe pick at them.
Like at the pub or
It's like
something.
the
At the
opposite
pub.
of Amy Abraham.
Yes, I know. So didn't she say?
It was like
It
possibly
was like,
her
this is
favorite
my
thing.
favorite food.
Yeah,
and,
big
and
contrast.
when she said
Yeah.
that, I was like, oh,
Oh, don't
That's
like.
not
I'm not
what I
going to
would
speak
say.
that. Not going to speak to Amy anymore.
I don't know. Like, if I had to pick between the two salts, though, it would probably be chicken salt.
Yes.
But I don't know. I'm just like, even when I am just picking through like chips on my plate when I have a pub meal or whatever, I'll go for the ones that are the most like Macca's fries, like the
French fries.
yes, as little potato as possible.
Pommes frites.
Pommes
That's what we
frites.
talked about with Amy.
Shout out to Daniel as well, who 3D printed me and Ethan our keyring chains.
Keyrings.
Oh, the chicken.
The chicken salt
shaker?
keyring shakers.
Wow.
I don't have my keys on me at the moment, but actually, Joel also has one made to him that has not been delivered yet. But
Yeah. Well,
very exciting.
Yeah, well, I
I'm
don't
sure
know.
we'll have
Clearly
merch.
don't-
We'll have merch soon.
he clearly
It's very
doesn't know where
exciting.
his bread's buttered. Come and look after me, man. Come on.
I
Yeah.
will say on the chips though,
Yeah.
I do like a chip sandwich.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
just white bread,
Yes.
margarine.
Yes.
Oh, margarine.
It's
Margarine.
much margarine.
I grew up with
not butter.
margarine.
I grew up with
We never had
margarine that
butter.
made me go to butter. When I moved out, I was like, finally, real food.
Real cow fat.
Real cow.
Yes.
I feel like someone at home hopefully is taking a tally of what's chicken salt and what's plain salt. Because we haven't done that. We're up- this is
Producer Ack, can you put up the tally
the
for
guy
what
that's
everyone
not
has
sitting behind
said
the
so far? Definitely
Fix
not
that.
going to do
we're up
that.
to
Don't do it, Ack.
we're up to episode 19. And we haven't kept a tally of it at all.
Is it actually 19?
Yeah, this is the
wow.
19th episode.
That's
18th
me.
episode came out with John.
Yeah.
We're recording a week ahead, guys.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
We're past 18. We can hit the town.
Yeah.
This is very exciting.
Hit the town. So Kim,
Yes.
we usually talk about how people grow up as a Christian, when they became a Christian, and that's what I want to ask you to begin with. How did you become a Christian?
Yeah, so I grew up in a non-Christian family, but I had some awesome parents. Have some awesome parents who were always really happy to send me along to whatever I wanted to go to in terms of church stuff. My parents put all of us. I've got 3 siblings. Put all of us through Protestant scripture. So I always had a really good experience of hearing the Bible taught to me and things like that. And I don't think there was ever a period in my life where I didn't believe God existed. I can't remember going, I think God exists. I think I just always believed that. But I didn't really understand the significance, or like the biblical significance of that. So I didn't understand who Jesus was. I didn't understand why he was so important. and I just didn't have a biblical understanding of faith at all because I didn't grow up in a Christian family. But my older sisters went along to Soul Revival Church, went along to Guymer Anglican, and so they went along to Soul Revival. And so I had the opportunity to actually go on a Saturday night back when Soulies was at the venue in Kirrawee. When I was, I don't know how old, maybe 10, because they'd be babysitting me on a Saturday night, and they were like, oh, we don't want to go home, we want to go to Soulies, so I got to go along to Soulies.
You lived right around the corner too, right? Did you or not?
Yeah. So we lived really close.
Yeah, cool. Which
yeah,
made it
so,
easier.
Yeah. So I just went. I have distinct memories of just hanging out on the skate ramp, just sliding down the skate ramp on my bottom.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so that was fun. So that was that. But so I kind of had experienced the community at Soul Revival a little bit, but I hadn't made a personal commitment to Christ until I was in year 9. So my becoming a Christian actually occurred at a chip lunch at Kirrawee High.
That's cool.
Which is pretty cool. So I heard a talk during lunchtime. I think a friend just invited me to come along. Yeah. And the talk was about being lukewarm, and how if God. If God were kind of sipping a tea and we were the tea, and it were, and I think tea was specifically the example that was given, because tea is gross when it's lukewarm.
Tea's gross all the time.
You can have iced tea and you go.
Sorry.
Speaking of controversial opinions.
Sorry, keep going with your tea story.
Hot tea's great, iced tea's bad. Iced tea's bad, iced tea's good. Lukewarm tea is bad.
Again, so you're coming over to my side. And this is by the end of this, you'll be on the plain salt side as well, not just the chicken salt.
We'll see where we get to at the end of this. Anyway, hearing that made me realise that I was kind of sitting on the fence with God, where I kind of believed He existed, but that was it. I wasn't really committing to understanding who Jesus was, or the relevance that was to my life. And we were invited at the end of that talk to commit ourselves to Jesus, and I did that. With a group of a few people, and then I went off to class. So it was, and so it was kind of just kind of happened in a lunchtime in 20 minutes, not even. And then later on that year, I remember I made a little recommitment moment, just personally by myself, during Revive Camp. During a quiet time. I was sitting under a tree, and I just personally to myself, because I think before I'd been surrounded by people, and I'd kind of publicly said, I'm doing this, and then when I sat down under the tree during quiet time, I was like, but do I believe this? Am I living this out? And so I just had a recommitment moment then, but those are probably the two most important events, and that happened in 2007. So that was in year 9.
I like how you put the year in there. My question was going to be, you said your sisters went to church. What influence did they have on you in terms of
so it was interesting, because I said I had a non-Christian upbringing, but in a way I had a lot of Christian influence in my life because of my sisters. So my sisters are a fair bit older than me. They're 10 years older. So they had a lot of influence on me anyway. I really looked up to them. And so, even though, I had parents who didn't believe, that Jesus was Lord, I had sisters who did. And so just seeing the little ways that played out in my life, I think was really important. Just being really loving, and also experiencing the community at Soulies as well was really important, because my story jumps around a little bit, I think, but I think it was important that I experienced earlier in my life, before I got to high school, what nice people were like, and what a loving Christian community could be like, where I felt welcomed, even though I was a 10-year-old kid who wasn't supposed to belong in this space. It was for year 11 up, but I was welcomed anyway, and people loved me anyway. And so, I very much had that. Kind of in the back of my mind. I think as I've gotten older and I look back, I think about how a strong Christian community and Christian sisters and things like that were influencing me even then even though that was, a good 5 years or so before I became a Christian myself.
Yeah.
Were you going to any youth groups when you were in early high school? Before that moment you became a Christian at
so I occasionally went along to SALT at Guymer. And it was occasional because I danced a lot. So I think when Gemma was on the podcast and she was talking about how she had experience dancing too. So I danced heaps as well. I was dancing hours and hours every week. I was a competition dancer, so I was part of performance team. I always had things on the weekend. I had rehearsals and I had an Eisteddfod the next weekend, and it was just very, very busy. And Friday was always when performance team was, and it was kind of considered the most important night of dancing. You'd be there for 4 hours, basically for the same amount of time you'd probably be at youth. And so very occasionally, because I had friends at high school like inviting me to SALT in year 7 and 8, but I think I occasionally went after dancing, but I was so buggered at the end of that I very rarely made it. And even in year 9, when I did become a Christian, it was the same. It was the same deal. I was still dancing a lot at my studio. I would only occasionally go to Rev, and so it was actually interesting the following year. So I talk about how 2007 was the year I gave my life to Jesus. 2008 was the year where everything changed.
That's where everything changed.
Because it is spicy. Make sure you speak into the microphone. We've got to hear this properly.
Okay,
right?
so in 2000.
So just because you're moving around sometimes, I
I'm
want to
sorry,
make sure
I'm getting
everyone can
excited.
hear.
That's all right.
You can move the microphone. You can move it. That's it.
Oh, I can do this.
Oh,
maybe not. Can't lean back.
No, you can tilt the microphone back.
Am I out of shot?
This bit here.
Yeah.
So in 2008. So at the end of 2007, I wasn't that happy at dancing, in particular. So I just wasn't having a great experience. I loved dancing. I still love dancing. I'm a dance teacher now.
The act of dancing.
The actual dancing.
But was everything around it?
Everything around the dancing was getting really hard at that point in my life. So it was around people being unpleasant to me. It was both students and teachers, unfortunately. And I was just not having a great time and was really struggling. And at the same time, I had become a Christian. And so I think I didn't have the maturity of faith and the confidence to be able to profess that much and things like that, because I had such a hard time at my dance school. So that was happening at the same time as I had made this newfound commitment to Christ. So at the end of 2007, because my mum was not happy either about the dancing stuff. And so we basically decided together, not that I was going to stop, but I was significantly going to change what I was doing so that I was A, not at the studio as much, and B, able to go to youth on a Friday for the first time.
You don't
and be able to commit to that.
So I'm not going to ask you to name the studio, obviously, but tell us what was going on, if you feel comfortable.
Yeah, for sure. So, so I think I was just always a bit of an awkward kid. I was socially not all there. I think I just had a bit of I had different interests, I think, to a lot of the other girls that were there. Because it was predominantly girls, obviously, because that's what it was like in the early 2000s at a dance studio. And I don't know, I think I just had a different kind of personality. I was tomboyish. I wasn't girly. Why was I at dancing if I'm not a girly girl who likes dresses and shopping and things like that?
The sentiment towards you? Is that what you mean?
A little bit, and also just, she's awkward. She says weird things. She doesn't know what to say that relates to us and things like that. And so I can safely say that I didn't have any friends, true friends at dancing. I had maybe here and there, I had a couple who I'd kind of, be able to go to their birthday parties and things like that. But I don't think I had any true friends at dancing until I was in year 11.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was, and I've been dancing since I was 6. So that was on the student side of things, in terms of kids just being kids, but also just being unpleasant. And me not knowing how to respond to that. But at the same time, I had teachers that didn't necessarily help with that particular side, like the social side of things. Because it's just a lot of favoritism and a lot of competition, and the teachers all have their favorites too, and so not every studio is like this. I can very much assure you and assure the listeners that dance studios aren't all like this, and I think that they're actually a lot better with this stuff now than they ever were when I was going through. But I think I just didn't have the best time.
It must have really sucked to have something that you were like very passionate about and loved. Right. But it's just the stuff around it that wasn't that pleasant. Yep. You never touch another man's microphone.
Anyway, it's like a toothbrush.
Sorry, I just moved. If anyone's just listening, I just moved Brayden's microphone so it wasn't covering his mouth when he's talking on the video.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's so frustrating. Okay, let's stop doing that.
Anyway, so I get like it would be so hard to have something that you love and are so passionate about, but it's just the things around
everything
it.
else around it is really hard. Because and if it weren't for the fact that if I didn't love dancing, I would have stopped. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But because I wanted to do something with it, and I am doing something with it with my life, I stayed. I just changed what I did in 2008, and that was a really good decision. So I changed from doing every single dance genre you could possibly do, plus performance team at the studio.
Okay, can I see if I can guess some of them?
Yes, please do.
Jazz?
Yes.
Tap?
Yes.
Modern?
Yes. We called it modern.
Contemporary?
We called it modern expressive when I first started dancing, and then the new term lyrical came in.
Oh. You weren't happy with that?
It just doesn't mean anything, but that's okay. That's a conversation for another time. Continue.
Is there a contemporary?
There is a contemporary as a separate genre.
Is there like acro or something?
Yes, I did acro. Yep.
Wow, you're doing...
My
have you said ballet?
I haven't done ballet.
Plus all the exams and everything with ballet.
My sister danced, and
musical
also
theatre.
my 5-year-old daughter does dancing. So that's why.
Yeah.
I'd actually...
theatre, singing, acting. You did all of them.
Which is amazing, because that's what my next question was going to be. Tell us why you love dancing and acting and stuff.
So I don't know. I think I got invited along to dancing when I was in kindergarten by my friend in kindergarten. And I still remember my first experience on stage when I was 6. We were doing a can, which is weird. A child version of the can.
It would have been hard,
It would have been, And so I think... So my friend who invited me along, we were the two little ones, and we had not as much dancing experience as the older kids in the dance routine. And during the routine, there was a point where we just both like sat on the stage, like kneeling with our skirts going like this. That's all we did for like half the routine, just looking cute, basically. We got the cute factor down.
Sit here and look cute.
Yeah, pretty much.
I still get that. So
yeah.
Do you dance?
No, I just get sit there and look cute.
Just
That's all I'm good at.
That's what your wife says.
Yep.
Shout out to Beck. Anyway,
Shout out to Beck.
Keep going, please, Kim.
So my friend who invited me along to dancing was, it was a bit sad, but it was like crying with her back to the audience. So she had not a great time. But I loved it. I was not phased at all by my friend. It was like this.
And you're like, woo!
And I'm there going,
oh my gosh,
everyone's looking at me, even though they're not, because I'm just sitting here doing nothing. But so I think I just loved being on the stage. And then later on, I just loved expressing myself in that way and improving in technique and getting to know all the different genres, and then seeing other people dance and like seeing professionals dance and things like that. And I still love it.
Is it a creative outlet for you?
Yeah, definitely.
Massively.
So like I'm a pretty creative person. I'm not good at most creative things. I enjoy them. I'm just
like I'm heaps good at I could be heaps good at drawing, but not that good at dancing. It's the other way around, but I'm actually much better at dancing than drawing. But it's still a pretty low bar.
I think it's also just like compared to who? Like we always compare ourselves to like, well, I can't draw as well as that person.
Yeah, exactly.
But you draw like you draw.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I was just saying it as a way to encourage you, like, you like must be really, really good at dancing. And then you're like, oh, but I'm not good at drawing. I'm like, no, let's just focus on the thing that you're good at. That's all. So, like, how do you use that as a creative outlet?
So I think when I was a teenager, what I was going through was kind of important to dance being my creative outlet. I think so.
Frustration.
My frustration, and I kind of grew to love contemporary, and that kind of is that's kind of my main style. I would say now. My number one, numero uno. Yeah. And it wasn't that way until I had an amazing teacher who came to the studio who was really lovely to me. And again, this was all 2008. It was all the same thing. Like I had more to do with her. And she just could see my potential, and she could see my frustrations
and your passion.
And my passion. And she just was able to bring that out of me. She did a routine once that we all loved, like the class. We all really loved it, and we won it. I remember just with pride. We won it every single time we did it. Yeah. And she actually based all of the character, because it was a real character piece, and she based all of the characters on kind of extreme versions of our own personalities, which was really cool. And
so you really could use it as an outlet.
Yeah, it was fully like I think I could probably still perform this routine like I remember it. So vividly. 2009, I would have been in year 11, I think, at the time.
What was the extreme version of your personality? So the
extreme version of me was my very intelligent teacher and caring teacher, knowing what I went through at the studio. Wow. And she kind of choreographed this misfit character on me. Yeah. And it was just, like, it wouldn't have worked if we hadn't had a good relationship, I don't think. Like, it would have been weird, or if any other teacher had done it, it might have been mean and all this kind of stuff. But she just knew that I had that passion lying underneath that I just needed to bust out and be this kind of character that was kind of, so my character was kind of left out, but then I'd have lots of solos by myself and things like that.
Wow.
So
what a great teacher.
Oh, she was amazing. She's still an amazing teacher.
That's awesome. How did you find, because I found this with, like, my outlet's obviously more music kind of stuff, but you were speaking about how you felt awkward, you felt socially awkward when you were just chatting to people or around the studio, but then you obviously had that confidence when you were doing dancing and learning and that. Yeah. How did you find that, like, dichotomy of, like, was it almost like that was like your release? Like, oh, I can do this. This is what gives me confidence.
Yeah. And again, like, I haven't even talked about what happened in 2008.
We'll get there.
But again, it's 2008. Let's talk about it now. So that particular year, I really cut back what I was doing at the studio, and I had everything to do with this teacher. I did nothing but ballet and contemporary and technique classes. So 2 of the 3 types of classes I was doing was with this teacher. And so I just went, I'm going to do, I want to do contemporary. And in order to do contemporary, I have to do ballet, and I enjoy ballet too. So, and ballet is a real foundation for dance. They kind of say that if you do ballet, you can do anything, because ballet is incredibly hard and teaches you really great technique that benefits all the other styles.
Balance and movement.
Everything, and your brain. Because it's mentally so taxing as well. Because there's a right way or a wrong way with ballet. There's no in between.
I've seen Centre Stage. A number of times, because my sister would watch it over and over again.
Centre Stage is definitely a really accurate representation.
Dave, can you put in a clip of Centre Stage, please? It's hilarious. It's such a funny movie.
Just that end scene. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
There's some like wild boy ballet guy, and he rides a motorbike, and the main character is like,
it's amazing.
Oh, I'm sure
it's like so bad and so good.
I'm sure Beck's seen it. I'll ask her.
She probably has.
2008.
2008.
Sorry.
So that was at the studio, and I also picked up doing state representation of dance instead.
Are you sure you cut back? It sounds like there's a lot going on.
It sounds like a lot,
you were already doing.
I did. It cut back on the hours and the amount of days that I was.
So give us what you were doing originally and what you changed it to.
So what I did, a standard week before would have been, I'd have on a Monday, I'd have a stretch and strength class and then a ballet class, and then I'd come home and eat my dinner, not with my family because they all ate before, and I'd heat it up in the microwave. Rinse and repeat that scenario for every day of the week. And then like, you know, Tuesday I might have modern, and then that goes straight into jazz. And then on a Wednesday, I might have the night off, or I might have another ballet class, because like I'd have like at least 3 ballet classes.
Wow.
Because you had to do a lot of ballet if you were doing exams and stuff. You couldn't just go once a week. Like, so yeah. And then Thursday, it'd be the same. It'd be, you know, a different style. I probably did acro musical theatre on the same day, performance team on a Friday, which was the longest of them all. And then on Saturday mornings, again, was pretty long, because that would be when we'd have like our open ballet classes, and contemporary was on a Saturday morning and things like that. So it'd basically be 5 or 6 nights a week. Wow. I'd be dancing, plus including the Saturday day.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's what I was doing. So it was significant hours, everything like that. What I changed to was more like I'd have a ballet class going straight into a strength class on one day. Tuesday was when I had state, which I loved, state representation dance, which I did through school, which was amazing. And that was a big block of dancing on a Tuesday afternoon out at UNSW.
Wow.
And then I'd probably just have the Saturday after that.
I should just clarify, that's University of New South Wales.
Did I say UNSW? Yep, sorry.
That's what I'm just making sure everyone knows.
Yes, there were studios there once upon a time, and we used to do state there.
Once upon a time, no longer?
Yeah, well, there are studios there, but the OG studios are no longer there.
Okay. So
Just
then
pour some out for the homies.
put some Diet Coke out for the original studios.
For the OG studios, save our studios.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty sure we had a hashtag, because we did not want them to be destroyed.
Right.
When we were at uni.
You and like 15 other students
pretty
are
much
like, hey, we don't want the studios gone.
Yeah, and the
We'll
uni
buy
was
them.
definitely.
We'll buy them.
We can definitely afford it.
We'll have a whip round. Pass the hat around, everyone. We're getting the studios.
Collection for the studio. Amazing.
Anyway.
But that was a much better change.
Oh, much better change. Yeah, because I like I said, I started to actually get friends and things like that, and I think that I had experienced, again, jumping around with my story a little bit, but because I had experienced a warm, loving Christian community before I became a Christian, and then I had become a Christian and started going to youth in 2008. Started going to youth.
So
started going to
Fridays
church.
off.
So I had the Fridays off, so I'd be able to go. And yeah, I think I just kind of found myself that year, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really like that phrase. But
It was we like to talk about turning points a lot on this podcast, and that sounds like
that
a
would
really,
have
really
been a
big one
turning
for you.
point. I got my first Bible that year. Like, I was reading it for the first time
What
by
a year.
myself. Like, it was So 2007 was important for becoming a Christian, but 2008 was where
So you were in year
everything
11 in
changed.
2008?
Year 10.
Okay.
Year 10. Yeah.
What's really cool though is that seeing you're talking about your passion then, Kim, but then also like, and then I changed to this, and like in this year, and then seeing your eyes light up. I could see that you were doing that. And isn't it fascinating how God uses these turning points or certain situations to help us find our identity, but our identity is based in what Jesus has done first, so then we can fulfill our true identity that he gives us and has made us to have.
Yeah.
And I think that's just really, really cool to see you just say that, like that year of, or that 2007, 2008 period was like, that's when I became Kim.
Yeah.
And that's really, and you're still working on yourself, right? Like, and
always,
I don't think I reached that point until I was in my mid-20s or something, but it's really nice to see you do that, because as soon as you told us about that, like, you're like, and that was when I became Kim, and you're like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I was just stoked on your on your. You can just see it in your face. That's all. That's what's really cool
It's
about
lovely.
it.
Yeah.
What about being a Christian at that time? So year 9, year 9 you made the commitment.
Yeah. That's right.
How did that influence? I know you talked about a little bit of dancing, but what about at school?
So I think at school I was still a little bit unsure of myself. Even after I had become a Christian, I was still kind of working out what that meant. I definitely had friends at school, which was good. Did I have super close friends? Probably not. Again, that probably didn't happen until later. But yeah, I guess my experience of like seeing what God was doing in my life, I don't know, it was a bit of a blur in that year, I think. But I think I just kind of had in my mind that there was a community that I wasn't able to go to.
Yeah.
But like outside of school, but within school, we had chip lunch and prayer group and fribles and things like that.
I like
Fribbles is Friday night Bible study.
No,
Friday
lunch.
day,
sorry.
Bible
Yeah.
study.
So like I was reflecting on this the other day
Yeah.
with Ethan, who's another person who's on this podcast frequently. But like just reflecting like, oh yeah, we had chip lunch, which
We had everything.
some pastors from local churches would come in
Yeah.
and chat and hang out. We had a student-led prayer group, and then we had a student-led Bible study as well. It was crazy.
Student-led Bible study, which I led when I was in year 12.
I remember.
Yep, Brayden was there.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like it's such an encouraging thing to have that many like student-led things going on.
Didn't have
Yeah,
that at my
it
high
was-
school.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
No, we would.
In hindsight.
I still had a few of those things actually. I should say,
Yeah.
like we had scripture and like the optional Tuesday afternoon scripture too. So there was those opportunities
Yeah.
too. Like you.
But I think that's why it's so cool. Is like hearing like you obviously
I needed that.
Yeah, you couldn't go to youth at the time, so
Yeah.
you had those support
Yeah.
structures.
So I had those support structures there. And I think it took me a little while in memory. Like I remember there were a couple of times where a friend would say, oh, prayer group's on. I'd be like, oh, like pretending that I'd just forgotten when really I was like, I'm not going to go. Like, so I remember having those kinds of feelings sometimes. So I think things were still kind of clicking in my mind. About the importance of those structures being there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely a gradual process because, I think it was straightforward that I became a Christian, but then my faith journey was not. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's like
That's
I think
that's
that
nice.
Yeah, that's
happens to a lot of people, especially in high school.
Yeah.
Where you're still trying to figure yourself
You don't know
out.
who you are.
Yeah,
and-
exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
We kind of have a distant link though because.
This is fun. Yeah.
Am
I
I
think this
allowed
is
to
right.
name your sister, by the way?
Yeah, go for it.
So my wife's name is Karen, but she was led by your sister Karen at youth group.
Yep.
But then my Karen led you at youth group.
Yes.
Is that correct?
So my sister was my great leader, I used to call her.
The great leader.
So my Karen led your Karen, who led me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is like really cool because
Which
I
is
know,
really cool.
I know that you didn't go to. It was difficult for you to get to youth group sometimes, but I think
They never gave up on me.
that's good.
Yeah, no.
That's really cool.
Amazing
Actually,
leaders in Karen and it's amazing.
do you want to speak
And
about
Heather
that?
and Nikki, like I just, I've already said like I was not having a great time at dancing and an average time at school, and then on the very rare occasion that I came to youth, it was like Kimmy. It was like I was always there, like
That's cool.
always a part of that community. And I remember being really encouraged by them, in particular when I did make that decision to I'm going to commit Fridays to going to youth. That they were so encouraged by that, and they encouraged me. Their reaction really, really was very special, I think. The fact that they were stoked. That made me happy.
Was that a bit of a refuge for you? Stuff you're going through? Yeah.
Yeah, like I felt like, I think I remember making peace almost with myself and going, well, I haven't got community here. I don't need it. Whatever. I'm there for the dancing. I'm there to learn. Like,
And your creative outlet.
I'm there for my creative outlet. I don't need friends there. Like almost that kind of thinking, because I've got these friends.
Yeah.
I've got so many friends here, in my leaders and in my school friends and in my friends who I had at youth, who went to different schools, and definitely a refuge, definitely a place where I felt like I could be myself, and that was so important for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it played a big part in me, for me too.
Yeah.
Like just being part of a loving community. It's like, hey, it's all right to be how you feel.
Yeah, and like that was so different to what the world teaches you.
Yeah.
You know? You've got to be a certain person, or you've got to.
They were telling
you've
you
got to
that
pretend.
dancing, right?
Oh,
It was like, oh no, you
be
need
this
to like
person.
this.
You know, you need to be like this.
It's not
If
just
could-
that you are good at dancing or like dancing. You need to be like this.
Oh yeah, you need to be this personality in order for your teachers to like you. You know,
Yeah.
like. And I'm like, this is so backwards, but that's what the world's like. It's really, really quite sad.
What is there a story that sticks out to you from that dancing period where it was just like, oh, I'm quite different to these people?
I remember I had my Game Boy once.
That's
probably not a significant story,
but this is where I wanted to go.
I remember, like, because we'd have, break time sometimes between classes, and we had like a student rest area where you could go in between just to chill out. There was a TV and stuff, and I would play my Game Boy and play like Tetris and Dr. Mario and things like that.
Dr. Mario.
And that in and of itself was weird. And not that significant, but that was like just a little thing that it would kind of be like I'd be kind of sitting by myself, not talking to anyone, things like that.
Was that almost a personal choice?
It was
for
a
you
personal
as well?
choice because I knew that if I tried to engage in conversation, it wouldn't work. I think that's kind of where it came from there. And I think I maybe I have a sad story. I'll tell a sad story. That's fine.
If you're happy to tell it.
I'm just trying to think if it's. I'm not going to say where it was.
Okay,
that's a good idea.
I'm just being careful.
That's all right.
But there was we were just mucking around again, break times, kind of in between performances, I think. And the girls were kind of making up little songs that, not really songs, but like dances basically that just used the individual's name and did an action that showed what they were like. And of course it came to me, and it was kind of like a going away, like I'm pushing away, being everyone else going away from me.
Oh.
So that sticks out in my mind, and those things never leave you. Like you remember that stuff forever.
That's the stuff that sticks with you.
It's so sad. And looking back, it's still sad. It's not like I got I'm over it, but like it's not like you forget how sad that was.
Yeah, it's not how you don't forget how you felt.
And also people haven't asked for forgiveness for hurting you.
Yeah.
Because they might not know.
They might not know.
They probably don't even remember.
Yeah.
They would probably. I might be the only person that remembers that, even though there were 10 of us there. You know.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, there's a sad story.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for being honest.
Yeah.
I've been there. If anyone's been there.
Well, that's the thing. That's one of the reasons we do this podcast is for people just to share their story.
Yeah.
And be totally non-judgmental.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is what's going on for people. What about coming out of high school? Like you're finishing high school. How'd you go to HSC? Let me guess. You did some dancing for HSC?
I did some dancing for the HSC.
Oh wait, before we do that, why are you so into Nintendo?
Oh,
this is a huge part of your life.
It is a huge part of my life. I know. I got an N64 when I was a kid for Christmas. I had a Game Boy. I think that must have been before that. I don't know. We just always had we had a home console. I always had that console. I think I just always enjoyed being able to sit and play games.
Yeah. Your sister's into it as well?
Yeah, and the console was for all of us. The N64, for example, was for all four of us.
If people don't know, that's a Nintendo 64.
A Nintendo 64. But I'm the one that has it still. So it's at our house. I kind of stayed being a fan of Nintendo when my siblings didn't as much. And again, I think it's an escape thing. I think that's what it is. I like being caught up in an adventure game in particular. So I really liked, Brayden, you're going to like this, but like I really liked things like Banjo-Kazooie, platforming games, 3D platforming games, Mario 64, things like that.
And I was thinking I was a PlayStation guy, so I was starting to think of PlayStation games, but I'm guessing you love Zelda.
Yeah. Love Zelda.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to let's just use this as a placeholder for later, but the fascinating thing is that your husband is probably into gaming even more than you are. It's all Nintendo.
Just as much.
Which is just so crazy. So you saw that as an escape though, just from the world that you couldn't really understand?
I think so, because I think I understood the game.
But you're achieving stuff in adventure games and stuff.
You're achieving stuff. You get rewarded for doing things well. You've got to push through the hard parts to be able to get the thing and beat the game and finish it 100%, which I've always had a thing to do. And
it's also a story.
And it's a story,
you like reading as well, Kim, as well. It's a story, you know what I mean? I think that's what I enjoy about games, is games where you're caught up in the
that's why Zelda's so good. Zelda is all about it's the gameplay is very, very special and very unique to the series, but the stories are always really interesting too. Yeah.
I remember playing Zelda and I'm like, I don't get this.
Which Zelda? Which Zelda did you play?
It was on the 64.
So either Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. If you remember which one?
Ocarina of
Ocarina
Time,
of
I
Time.
think.
Classic.
And I probably just didn't have a Nintendo 64 to be able to understand it as well. Metal Gear Solid was that for me.
You like Metal Gear?
Yeah, on
Never
the PlayStation.
played those games. I think I've seen Matt play a little bit before.
Yeah,
I think
they're pretty
he gave it a
hectic.
go.
Okay, so let's go back to finishing high school.
Yeah. Yes.
You aced the HSC exam for dancing.
I did good in dance. Yeah.
I came top in the state,
Not top in the state.
but close to.
Yeah. So
What's your mark? I know you know your mark. What was your mark?
my
Tell us.
dance? I don't
Yeah.
know my dance mark.
Oh,
Just
yes,
beep it
you
out.
did.
I got a band 6. I don't remember my
Okay,
mark.
we'll go with the
Yeah.
band 6. That's
I got a
fine.
band 6, and
6 is the top.
I got into callback. I did do callback, which is
Yeah.
What's
that's
callback?
so you know how
It's like
there's Art
encore.
Express and On Stage and
Encore.
for music.
Yes. Well,
Which
those
is like
arty-farty things.
exemplary performances to show students this is how you do it.
Fantastic. Oh.
Callback is the dance equivalent of that, and I did that.
Was
Awesome.
that on at the Opera House?
No, that was
Encore
at
always at the Opera House.
no. Oh, I think this was when I did it. I think it was at the Seymour Centre.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's either at the Seymour Centre or Newtown High. I don't remember.
That's a dance that you like choreographed yourself and then thing, or is it just
It's
one
a dance that
you-
I adjusted to me, but was
cool.
choreographed by my dance teacher at school. Who
That's
was
still
also
cool.
an amazing teacher.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
That's very
And
cool.
you just had to do that performance by yourself.
Yeah.
So do they
I
all-
did two performances.
So for that, are you on a stage and just like there's like 4 people in the audience watching?
For callback, no.
But when the
But when you do the
exam-
actual HSC, yes. So
Ooh.
we were in a
Wow.
studio,
Yeah.
in the performance studio at Kirrawee High. And yeah, there's like 3 or 4 people just
Yeah.
sitting there judging you.
I think that's what broke me with like.
And then you had to talk about what you just did. I'm like, so in dance, it's crazy. I teach it now, so I still say to them, it's really mean that they make you do this. But in performance, which is one of the components,
Yeah.
you have to talk after you dance. So you dance for 5 minutes. And then you have to talk for like 10 minutes. And so they'll ask you a question. They'll be like, so what was your interpretation of this particular dance? Let's talk about that. And I'll be like, so I spent a lot of time thinking about that part of the space. Sorry. And what that meant to me.
I think music HSC broke me because it was like
so
I
stressful.
used to get really nervous before I played, even though I loved playing. I would get really nervous after music HSC, where you like put all this effort in, you play, you've like been practicing for months, you play, and then it's just like you finish the song and everyone they're just like
They're just like,
it's like 4 people
here's
writing,
a number.
4 people writing. Like no one else in the room, and you're just like,
mind
yeah.
games.
So we'll start the next song.
Well, it's like the
it's
Saturday,
so
like the
weird.
Saturday Night Live auditions.
Yeah.
They go to stand-up clubs and go, oh yeah, that guy's good. You know, come in for an audition, and there's like 4 of them plus Lorne Michaels, the guy who's like handled the series for forever.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
Hey, so
and so they do an impression or something, and they're like, I don't even know if that worked or not because you got no response from the audience.
Exactly.
Whereas like with performing, you're usually meant to be
well,
getting a response from the
it's
audience.
Like an
Exactly. It's
entertaining
so
thing,
backwards.
isn't it?
And like,
Yeah.
I say to my students that I hate every time we get to it, every time we get to composition, where they are choreographing
Yeah.
their own original thing.
Yeah.
Before I mark, I'm like, just so you guys know, I hate marking composition with a burning passion.
Yeah.
Please don't be offended by any number that I give you, because I
Yeah.
hate putting numbers on comps because it's
Yeah.
your creation.
Yeah,
Like, it's
exactly.
not how it's meant to be, and the world's not like this, but I've got to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll rant about that to them every
It doesn't
time.
really work because you're telling people to be as creative as possible and do
Yeah.
your own interpretation.
But then there's a marking criteria,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you have to meet the criteria.
Yes.
And in the
Yeah.
case of this subject, in composition, there's like 3 criteria. So it's like,
How much does your dancing marking determine what you're going to do after school? Does it at all? Because surely
depends
if you
on
want to...
it depends on what route you want
Yeah.
to go down. Like for me, it was important because I was going down the dance education route through uni. So I needed to be quite proficient at my subject in order to teach it well. So,
Yeah.
but if you're doing what so I feel like a kid who does dance when they finish school, they're either going to not do anything with it again.
Yep.
They're going to go down the teaching route, or they're going to go down the professional route. That's usually how it goes. If you go down the professional route, I don't even know if it matters all that much. I don't think
that's what I was
much
thinking.
of it matters at all, because most people would then go to like a full-time studio as a launch pad and then sign up with an agency.
Cool.
And it doesn't really matter.
So like we spoke a little bit about you helping run Friables. How was that? Like, how was that journey going from like maybe being someone who was like, oh, prayer group, I'm not really in the mood today, which I like.
Like 2 years prior.
Yeah, exactly, 2 years prior. But you're 15 and 16, totally all good. Yeah. But like, how was that journey to getting to that, and how was that experience of doing that in year 12?
Yeah, it was quite a journey, because I think like, I started actually attending church and hearing sermons for the first time, and hearing the Bible taught for the first time, because like I'd be kind of reading it for myself for the first time, and then hearing people teach me how to read it, and teach me about the passages and stuff like that. And I was really encouraged by that. And that really contributed to a lot of my learning, like my biblical understanding over the next few years until I finished school. Like, I was so excited when we got to senior high Bible study when I was in year 11 at Guymer Anglican. Yeah. Because we started off with Old Testament. Yeah. And I was like, yes, because there were all these people in my year who had grown up in Christian homes and had heard all the Old Testament stories when they were kids and through kids group and things like that. And I was just like, I know nothing about the Old Testament. I know the name Moses, and that is it. And I'm very excited to learn. And so I think that I was riding a bit of a high, just really enjoying learning about the Bible. And then off the back of that, it kind of, I was like, like an enormous pressure on myself, I think, to lead that. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely had the support network at school and at church. To make sure that what I was saying was all good and encouraging for people and just being there. I think I had to learn that lesson. I had to learn that I had to be there in the first place. And I think I just loved that community. And our little group, by the time I was done with year 12, I remember there's a photo somewhere, probably floating around Facebook, that has a bunch of us in it. Yeah. And it's a special photo. Yeah. Yeah. Keegan's in it as well. Yeah. There's
I'm trying to think of where that photo was, but
it was
showed it to me.
Yeah, I think it's floating around on Facebook somewhere.
It's on the interwebs.
It's on the interwebs, on the line. We'll find it.
Cool, guys. Thanks for taking us down that memory lane.
Sorry.
We'll
include Joel again. Did you know that your wife loved me?
Hey, Joel, I heard you went to uni. Kim, apparently you went to uni too.
That's right. That was
we
my
have
transition.
so much in common.
This is crazy.
You like dancing.
I like dancing in an informal way. Yeah. I choreograph my own dance.
No marking criteria.
The only criteria is it sexy? Yes. Tick every time.
I don't want to know who's marking that.
Dance education. Why did you decide that dance education? Was it because you had those good teachers?
I think so. Yeah. So I did the degree that my amazing teachers did. Yeah. So I had a not great experience with teachers, and I learnt what a bad dance teacher did, and how not to do it, and how not to, or how to actually nurture. Yeah. So I learnt from my other teachers how to actually nurture someone with a creative passion, and I was very inspired by that.
That's awesome.
I was like, so here I am coming out of this terrible experience of not terrible experience of school, but terrible experience of being a student, and terrible experiences of teachers, to wanting to be a teacher. Out of spite. No, out of spite.
Out of vengeance.
So much better. Out of vengeance. But yeah, just seeing how important it was to have that kind of role model in just one student's life makes all the difference. And so I was very inspired by that. And so by the time I finished school, I knew what I wanted to do. And then, you never know. Like, sometimes you get to uni and it's like, I hate this. with every fibre of my being, and I want to do something else, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that experience. I was like, I love this degree that I'm doing. I'm loving the skills that I'm learning. And then I did my prac, and I was like, I actually like being with the students. Amazing. That would be kind of important. If I hated the prac, I probably shouldn't be a teacher.
Yeah.
But I loved the prac, and I'm like, okay, this is hard work, but
like
really rewarding. And I think this is what I want to do, and it's what I do. So, yeah.
How long have you been doing it for being a dance teacher?
So I started teaching at studios from when I started uni.
Yeah.
So that was 10 years ago. And then I started teaching in temporary and casual roles for the next 3 years. And I've been at my current school where I'm full-time. This is my 4th year, but I'm off this year because I'm on maternity leave. But yeah.
I was just going to ask you though, are you really trying to emulate those other dance teachers that you had and trying to bring that out in the? And are you seeing your students like really respond to that?
I hope they respond. Yeah, no, I think I do. I think I see, like I still use little things that those teachers did. I still use the sorts of exercises, like a standard technique class would be very similar to this amazing teacher that I had. Like,
wow.
So I'm still very influenced by that. And yeah, it's really nice. Like I do have students reflect on me. Like I think my teaching style, I give them a lot of, I don't know, I want them to be as knowledgeable about what they're doing as much as they are about how to do it, if that makes sense. So like I want them to use their brain as much as their bodies when they dance. So I've been told that my teaching style is very like not full on in terms of there's too much information, but just you're constantly thinking about what you're doing because I'd be giving them verbal reminders and things like that. And kids would say that to me. And so they'd say like, I feel like it's almost like association learning. Like when I do this, I can hear my teacher say, I can hear my voice. I can hear my voice kind of saying that. And I've been told that before, which is pretty cool. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, I hope that means something to them.
Is your passion for dance being transferred from doing dance yourself? Do you still dance or not?
I don't dance as much for myself anymore. I wish I did, actually. I probably should a bit more.
You should do that.
I should, yeah.
I was just saying, is your passion for dancing yourself being transferred into teaching others to have the same passion?
Yeah, like I love seeing, like, and I miss it in that sense because, like, I'll see them have an amazing experience on stage or see them finally get a skill that they've been working on for ages. And I'll remember what that felt like and I'd be like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You've experienced that, and I just get to experience that over and over again vicariously through them, which is really cool. I love it. Yeah, it's great.
No,
I miss it this year. Not doing it this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Well, before we get to you having a baby, how did you meet your husband?
I met my husband at his church. When I was in a period of time where I was churchless and I was visiting a lot of friends' churches, and I had friends at uni who went to my husband's church, and so they invited me along, and that's how I met him.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome.
And then we didn't start dating for another year after that.
And was your first date playing Nintendo together?
It wasn't. He bought me a coffee.
Oh.
In the city. It was very romantic.
In the city?
In the city, yeah.
Wow.
I think he was finishing work.
Meet me in the city. He's like, but did he make you come out from...
Yeah.
Go into the city? He's like, come and meet me in the city.
Meet me in the city.
I can't
I'll get you a coffee.
I want to look impressive in the city. I'm a man of the town. Is that what he was saying?
That's exactly what he was saying.
I can hear him saying it right now.
That's definitely how Matt talks.
Yeah, if you know Matt.
He does not talk like
He
that.
really
Not to give him, he's quite softly spoken, but that doesn't mean he's, I'm not giving him a hard time for that.
No.
But he has a soft voice,
Yep.
but very manly voice. So I'm guessing at this coffee, you're having this coffee, right? When does Nintendo come up?
Okay, so this is actually a funny part of the story. So I remember we sat in the coffee shop.
This is the kind of story I'm looking for.
And this is what we want on this podcast.
Yeah.
We were sitting in the coffee shop and we talked about so much stuff except for video games. So we knew that each of us loved games.
Yeah.
And we had hung out and played games before and things like that before we had gone on this date. And we talked about so much other stuff. Like we talked about church and we talked about school and we talked about what we did and all this kind of, we got to know each other. Yeah. And we later as we left the coffee shop, we then, as we went for a walk around the city, started talking about Nintendo.
Yep.
And
12 hours later.
We did spend a long time in the city. It was a good first date. And it worked, clearly.
Yes.
Good choice of location, Matt.
Good choice of location. So what was the question again? I was talking about...
When did
You're talking
Nintendo
about
come up?
Nintendo.
Oh,
That was the
yeah.
question.
So in the... we were both later reflecting like, it was like we both purposefully didn't want to talk about it first because we didn't want it to be the only thing that we had in common.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
a nice
I was
thing.
kind of thinking, I want to refrain from talking about games. And I later found out that he was also refraining from talking about games. And so then when we left the coffee shop, we just talked about games. We should have just talked about games. It would have been fine. But
Are there fights in the Crawford household over video
Mario
games?
Party,
Mario Party
a
is the
little
one.
bit,
Yeah.
just a little bit.
That game is a bit rigged though. I feel like no
That's
matter
true.
what happens, the end
It's
is never
it's
certain.
worse than like, you know how Pictionary that's like famous for like making people hate each other.
No, it's
Yeah.
Monopoly.
Oh yeah, for people.
But Pictionary, you like partner up with someone, and then when they don't
Oh,
understand what you're saying,
yeah.
it's like you don't understand me at all.
Yeah, that's
Mario Party is just, hey,
It's
let's
dignity.
work together in this game and earn money. Also, I'm going to use all of this against you, and I'm
Yes.
going to steal everything you have.
How does that knife feel
Oh,
in
is
your
that
back?
what
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, I've never
Backstabbing the
played
game.
it, so-
Oh,
Mario Party's amazing.
yeah, it's great.
but also terrible. Seems
Yeah, you get frustrated.
terrible for relationships.
You could lose everything in an instant in
Yes.
Mario Party.
Yes.
So it's
Based
like
on luck.
it's like date night for you guys. Like, what game are we gonna? Not like
Yeah.
what movie we're gonna watch. It's like what.
Occasionally we'll have something that like a show that we're watching, but usually it'll be, what do we want to play? Or,
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
or it's not as much now. I don't think.
It's really nice to see
yeah.
couples that share a passion together.
Yeah,
That's
it's
really fun.
it's nice that I have a husband who likes games.
How convenient.
It's very,
Very
convenient,
convenient.
that we have similar interests.
But now, as you were saying before, you've recently become a mum.
Yeah.
How old is your daughter, Adriana?
So Adri is nearly 9 months old. She was born in February.
Very cool. And what's with your obviously getting married to Matt? How long were you dating before you got married?
Year and a half, I think.
Wow, that's quick.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Again, no judgment.
That was quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's
It was quick. It was pretty quick. Yeah.
How have you seen God shape you with getting married to Matt and then also having Adriana?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I think being able to have someone I could read and pray with was really special in a close family setting was really different. And like, I didn't quite have that in my home growing up. Being able to have the opportunity to, be able to sit down with someone and pray in my own home was really special, I think. And serving together, I think, is the other thing that was really important. So Matt and I serve in a lot of the same ministries here, and I think that does wonders for our marriage as well.
Yeah.
Because we see the other person, like I see Matt and his servant heart, giving glory to God in everything that he does.
Yeah.
All the time, and it's like in practical ways, not just to me, but to everyone else, and to the kids at youth and things like that. So, I think that's been really important. Having Adriana is like out of this world.
It turns your life
It turns
upside
your
down.
life upside down,
Yeah.
and I think
It's the biggest life change you go through, I reckon.
for sure, like definitely in my life so far. And that's after 2008, which was
Wow.
quite
That was a big one.
what a year, 2021.
What a year.
Also,
Yep,
what a
that's
year.
right. Beijing
The year of
Olympics.
Adri.
Beijing Olympics.
That was a good Olympics.
It was a good
That was a good
Olympics.
Olympics.
Actually, not bad.
Not bad.
Keep going
Sorry,
back.
I was talking about
Adri.
Adri. So it's funny. She is now growing up in a Christian home.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I don't know what that looks like. So
Yeah.
I'm making it up as I go.
Yeah.
Matt knows a little bit more what that looks like. So he grew up in a Christian home. But it's really special. I can read the Bible with her. Like we've got a few little kids' Bibles and stuff, and a prayer book and other stories, and we pray with her every night, and read with her every night. that'll be her bedtime story, and that's so wildly different to anything I had, and so it's a bit daunting because I want her to grow up to love Jesus and to make that personal commitment like I did myself, and I want to be able to be there for her. Through all of that, and to know that I can be her mum who can talk to her, and she can come and talk to me about those things. And even just thinking about that, I feel like this, again, this huge personal pressure on myself. But it's also such a privilege to be in that position. But yeah, she's made me realize that God is so good all the time.
Yeah, well, like the interesting thing is that, like, as we've been talking across this episode, I'm really interested in the way that God has used you through your passions. So always, like with dancing, Nintendo and other gaming, then dancing with teaching. Like, I think He'll use your passion that you have for being a mum the same way.
I hope so.
And I think, but like we kind of talk about, like, hearing people's life stories, we see they pick out these different things, and we start to see a pattern of the way that God has actually been working through their lives, or the way that the way that He has shaped them, but also the way He has made them already, and then continues to shape us, continues to sanctify us. And like we were talking last week with John, that he's the things that shaped him were different crises that he went through. And for you, it seems like it's more through your passions. And I think that is actually really, really cool. And I, as someone who likes to get pretty passionate about the things that I'm passionate about, I found that really encouraging that I can do that. Like, God has given us these passions to use for His glory. And I think that's really cool. Would you agree, Brayden?
Absolutely.
Because you're a passionate guy.
Very
I
passionate.
think you're very passionate about music,
Yes.
football, passion that we share.
Yeah.
And I think I think that's a question that, why don't we finish with this question, is that how do we allow God to impact the world through our passions, do you reckon?
I think it's just such a privilege that He gives us things that we enjoy so much and get excited about, and that we can use those things. I kind of feel like selfish when I'm playing music at church, because I'm like, I'm enjoying this too much. You know what I mean? Like, surely, like, this is too self-indulgent because I enjoy it too much. But I think that's what He blesses us with. Like, He blesses not only with, like, a lot of things to do with following Christ, and our lives are hard, and it is really hard, but it is so beautiful when He does bless you with a passion and enjoyment for something, and then you can use that to glorify God. I think that's just so exciting, especially when you first find something like that, because like Kim was talking, she found dancing when she was obviously a lot younger. I always loved music, but I didn't start playing music probably until I was at like 12 or 13. So I think once you find that thing that you are passionate about, it's so exciting. And then to become a Christian after that, to then look at, as Kim did, at reflecting of like, oh, okay, well, I was, maybe I was a little while I was a dancer that was a Christian. Now I'm a Christian who is a dancer. How does that look?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that was definitely me for a while. Like, I was a musician who was a Christian, and now I'm a Christian who is a musician. And how do I go about reflecting that and glorifying God in what I'm doing?
Flipping those two things makes a big difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you reckon? How
about your identity, for
yeah,
sure.
That's right. How do you see that in dancing?
Oh, it's so funny, because in dancing, it's like, it's all about you.
Yeah.
And it's all about how good you are individually. Even if you are performing with like a group, like you need to be of a certain level to be able to make that work, you know? So it's really interesting being a Christian dancer, because on one hand, you know, you've got one world telling you that it's all about you. And it's almost like an outside in kind of experience where what does the audience see? Well, that means that you've put in this effort or whatever. But when you're a Christian, it's kind of like, you know, God's working on your heart from the inside out. And it's like, so when I'm performing, not that I perform as much anymore, but when I performed after I'd become a Christian, I would pray just before. And I don't even know what I was praying. Like, I don't know. I think I would be. I knew what I was praying. I'd be praying that I would give glory to Him through what I was doing. What that looked like, I think it took me a long time to work out, and I still think I'm still working out what that means. But you know, we have a creative God, and we have a God who is passionate about us, and has zeal for us. And I think it makes sense when we're made in the image of God that we have those. Yeah, we have that passion in a way, like. Yeah.
This is actually a discussion I had with your sister Karen a few years ago. And I mean, I was always of the opinion, like, I'm not good at drawing and I can't play an instrument, and like only dance really badly, as we found out. But I slowly found out that like I can be creative in a different way, which could be like, I do like to make jokes.
That's creative.
Yeah, and I like to like just come up with different ideas and stuff like that with whatever I'm working on. So I think that's something that maybe we can wrap it up on, is that God is creative, and we've just got to listen to Him to find our creative passions in order to glorify Him.
Yeah, in order to understand Him.
That's that's actually a really good way to flip it back, going from inside. Well, God working on us is that like, how do we understand these creative passions that He's given us in order to understand God better?
Yeah.
And then using it for other people to understand God better. Oh, that was profound.
So profound.
No, because you made me realise that. That's all.
Well, like, when you stop and think about it. Yeah.
I think we might wrap it up there, Kim.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks
for having me.
Thank you so
so
much.
Fun.
So good.
It was really encouraging. And really fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Had
much
a
for
great
sharing.
time.
Thank you for sharing your life and being willing to do that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's a little bit daunting, but we love it when people do that, because it's really fun to figure out what we just figured out. That's another good thing about Chip Lunch.
And if anyone is listening who is going through anything similar, or it's really hard. I know that it's really hard.
Or if you need a choreographer.
If you need a choreographer or someone just to chat to.
Just to bounce ideas off.
Just to bounce around ideas.
I might be able to do that. I might have to do that choreographer dance. You know how they always do the dance and then it says like at the bottom it's like the choreographer's name? Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
for
you.
sure.
That's no, that's Kim. I'll do the dance and Kim's the choreographer.
Okay.
Let's wrap that. Wrap up the chips, guys. It's time to finish. Wrap them all up.
It's like origami.
I made a crane. Can't you tell?
Guys, you might have noticed that I am also, if you're watching on YouTube, I am wearing like one of the new Soul Revival apparel t-shirts, which we are relaunching the brand, which we're very excited about.
I want a hat and I want it now.
Oh, we were going to have to wait. The shop is almost ready online. We're almost there. We've taken photos, so keep an eye out for that. We will advertise that as soon as possible. Guys, make sure you check out the Shock Absorber podcast as well, where we talk about the way that we do church and why we think doing it intergenerationally is important. We've had a few examples of intergenerational ministry that you've experienced, which is awesome. But to wrap it up, thank you, Kim. Thank you, Brayden.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you, Joel. Let's wrap up with a one way.
Yeah.